everyone. Sri Lanka is faced with a major economic crisis. There are restrictions on imports that impacted many people and businesses. There are food shortages, essential food items not available, or prices have increased. No petrol, no gas, and people are waiting in queues. Joining with us this deep conversation, the university lecturer who has extensive knowledge of economic and political economy, Mr. Kalpa Rajapaksha. Mr. Kalpa Rajapaksha teaches Marxist political economy at the Department of Economics and Statistics, University of Peradeniya. He is deeply interested in Marxism, political economy, philosophy, and history of economics.
I would like to thank again, sir, for coming here to share with us the valuable insights to gather some knowledge to help us to improve our knowledge with respect the political and economical stability of Sri Lanka. So, without wasting more time, perception. So, what will be the current situation in Sri Lanka? I mean, in the right now. So, and what can be the major root causes that can trigger the basic economic and political crisis? That is the very first question, sir.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much passing to here. Thank you so much for doing all the coordination with me and you guys. And I'm really I really appreciate that inviting me here because this is a timely matter, and at the same time you can see that uh, the general public is so eagerly waiting to have a sort of intellectual intervention, and also at the same time, as an economist, as a political economist, I feel that the public opinion is actually waiting for a sort of theoretical, solid understanding about the existing crisis. So it's a very timely matter. So I really deeply appreciate that you guys are trying to understand. At the same time, you guys are trying to get a sort of concrete idea about the existing crisis. So first of all, I think I should mention the fact that uh, I understand this crisis as a long-term crisis. I do not understand it as a very short-term, spontaneous crisis. I always describe this crisis as a long-term one because it is a combination of a political crisis and at the same time a deep economic crisis. So in that sense, I always assign the I always try to explain the present crisis as a very structural crisis of capitalism. So when we are looking at this crisis, immediately you can raise or you can understand what kind of political economic process the Sri Lankan society and the Sri Lankan economy alone went through during last 40 years. I specifically mentioned these 40 years because this is the time period where the neoliberal policies were structured and implemented in Sri Lanka. So if you look at the history of Sri Lanka, the political economic history of Sri Lanka, the 1977 is a crucial year because that's where the open market economy implemented, and at the same time, as the backbone of the open market economy, how the executive presidency was established. So I would call this crisis a clear crisis of this process, a clear crisis of this implementation of the neoliberal policies. And if you wish, I would like to give it the name, the crisis of neoliberal developmentalist state. Let me repeat the term, the crisis of the neoliberal developmentalist state. So I understand the crisis in that way, and clearly you can see that the uh, crisis actually confronted with a clear resistance from the society. So absolutely, there's no any excuse. Absolutely, there's no any other route for this society to go through. it has to go through the crisis, and it has to go through the people's, general public's resistance, because they are fundamentally rejecting this process. So that's where I position this crisis. That's where, I mean, that's a kind of explanation. That's a kind of definition I would like to give you. I mean, that's the beginning. That's the overall picture that I would like to explain. Yeah.
What can be the short-term economic policies that we can implement to bring back?
Lakshmi, it's a very, to be honest, it's a very complicated, and at the same time, it's a very challenging question. I can say, I mean, I can state a couple of things as solutions, but as you guys know, as you guys completely aware of the present situation, it's much more deeper. And my priority, the priority that I would like to give the priority not to a particular a very deterministic, if you wish, economic policies. My priority is basically how to lead the economy, or let's say how to give a sort of how to lead the economy for the benefit of general public. That's my priority. I do not wish to give a sort of recommendations in order to make rich people rich. That's one principle. And on the other hand, I do not believe that an agency like IMF, International Monetary Fund, is the only solution or the magic bullet for the present crisis. So two principles should be mentioned once again. Let me repeat it. All the policies that we are should be implementing should be beneficial for the general public. All the people who actually negatively impact during last couple of months, or let's say since January at least, should not get their lives, should not get the status worse. They should be secured. They should be secured. And at the same time, the second principle should be the IMF should not consider as the only solution for the present crisis. It should not be considered as the magic bullet for the present crisis. So on one hand, I think this also has been mentioned by the governor of the central bank. Right now, Sri Lanka is running on its export expenditure. Sorry, its export income, not the expenditure. It depends on the export income. And our solution, I mean, I can share the document with you guys. We have presented a very systematic solution for the present crisis. I can share the document later on. But we have shown in the document that if we can continue like 2021, which is the last year, according to the central bank, the government, the export earnings in the last year exceeded more than 20 billion US dollars. Not only the export, I'm sorry, not only the exports, but also the foreign income in the form of remittances, in the form of the income earned by computer engineers, graphic designers. All the income that earned by the Sri Lankan economy exceeded more than 20 billion US dollars. And at the same time, we have clearly showed that our import expenditure, basically, if we can limit it to up to 20 billion US dollars, which is like the last year, the value of the last year was 20 billion US dollars. If we can actually cut down it to up to 15 billion US dollars, there's a solution. For a while, we can manage the economy without borrowing anything. Look at the fundamental issue is Sri Lanka's borrowing, Sri Lanka's foreign borrowing, Sri Lanka's foreign loans from other sources, especially from the private sources. If you look at the debt structure of Sri Lanka, Chinese debt is not the reason behind Sri Lankan debt crisis, but the private loans Sri Lanka borrowed from different sources, especially from private sources, especially from private banks like BlackRock. BlackRock is one of the banks, and many banks from the US. That's the reason behind the debt crisis. So let me go back. So if we can cut down the imports to 15 billion US dollars, and if we can maintain the export expenditure, export earnings, and at the same time all the earnings from foreign sources, we can have a sort of a situation where we can manage the economy for a while without borrowing. And there will be some excess of money, 20 billion USD minus 15 billion USD. There's some excess of money, and we can have a plan for repayment in the long run, not in the short run. So the second solution for the current crisis, first solution is basically depending and at the same time managing our income and expenditure sources, external income and expenditure sources. The second solution would be getting into a debt memorandum, basically getting a sort of time period. You actually come to an agreement with your debtors, external debtors, to have a repayment process, to have a cut down of debt, right? So for that, you will need the support of the third party. I think IMF would be a solution, even though I'm not recommending IMF as a solution. IMF could be a third party that could help you in the process, right? That's a second solution. And as for the third, for the short term, let me go to another one. The one of the long-term solutions would be de-dollarization. We have explained this in our book that we published. I think I should share it with you because it will provide you a better explanation. De-dollarization is one of the solutions because our dependency on dollar is basically pressurizing the economy in many ways. So we are suggesting to go to other currency sources, especially ruble, yuan, and especially the Arabic currencies that we are commonly using in our balance of trade, basically using in our foreign exchange, foreign earnings. So such solutions are a must in this situation. We should get away from the dollar and should sort of keep our income, and at the same time keep our currency accounts with the support of other foreign currency sources. So these are long-term solutions. For the short-term solutions, I think the question Lakmini asked was what are the short-term solutions, but I went to for the long-term solutions more like. But the first solution is a short-term one, depending and managing the foreign income sources, foreign expenditure sources is a very short-term solution. If you look at the speech given by the governor of the central bank, he clearly said that the strategy called bridge financing that they were trying to use previously does not work because countries are not giving money to Sri Lanka. They're not letting Sri Lanka to borrow. They're not granting any money. So there's nothing called bridge financing right now as a solution. So you have to base and you have to depend on the export earnings. So that's a very short-term solution. That's one of the most desperate measures right now. But one of the short-term solutions that we proposed was establishing a development bank for the purpose of, I mean, right now we have development banks, but this particular development bank could actually allocate sources for the businesses, corporations, very small businesses, medium scale businesses, cottage industries. You can allocate money through this bank with a sort of as a relief package. You can allocate this money for small scale, all kind of businesses, because that's a desperate measure. That's highly necessary in the current status of the economy, because a lot of companies are about to go bankrupt, right? If you, I mean, think about the companies, stores, small businesses around your neighborhood. How many companies, how many businesses are going bankrupt right now, right? So it's a immediate. There should be an immediate solution for this, for the crisis, for the bankruptcy issues. It should provide money with great flexibility for all the liquidity crises of these corporations. There should be relief packages that actually launch through a bank like this. So that's a priority. And one of the solutions would be providing people the material reliefs, basically for each and every household. There should be a relief package for each and every household. For this, I think the government cannot handle the operations alone. There should be a greater involvement of the private sector as well. So that's for the material benefits, material reliefs for the household. So I think these short-term solutions are important. At the same time, um, um, the government services. So basically, the free services that the government is providing, health, transportation. Transportation is not free, but transportation should be a strong medium. It should establish, and the all the operations of the transportation sector should be effective. Right now, there's a crisis. There's no such plan, and at the same time, all the services, all the free services that the government is providing, health and education, should be established, managed properly, because these things are necessary. And I think these are the fundamentals of a very short term economic and social relief. Yeah.
Now introduce short-term economic strategies. First one is fuel crisis. The solution is strengthening public transport sector. Quota with QR code is suitable as a short-term solution. And also other one is taking action to decrease the budget deficit. Cut the import expenditure and manage the economy without borrowing anything, and also requesting foreign assistance and donations other than going ahead with loans. Formulating a board or government entity to act as the coordinator to obtain foreign white collar job skilled Sri Lankans, and provide every household should be a relief package. Government can't handle this one, and private sector should be involved for the material relief to the household. Now propose long-term economic strategies. First one is encouraging foreign and local investments in the country and developing infrastructure to attract more tourists to Sri Lanka, and encouraging agricultural sector to cater in future food crisis or to export. Other one is dollarization, fiscal and monetary policy changes, controlling foreign exchange and interest rate in the country. Another one is initiating a new strategy to make benefits or out of natural resources in the country.
Then from the economical aspects, I would like to turn towards the political aspect. So I would like to raise the question. So what can be the either short-term or long-term political strategies that we could implement to overcome from this crisis? Again, I was putting the same question over and over again, sir.
Sure. Lakshmi, can I be absolutely political in when you ask this question? Can I be absolutely political? Can I be very honest?
Yes, sir, sure.
Okay. One thing I want to add regarding the last question. There's a blogger called Michael Roberts. His blog is freely available, and he's actually answering this question about inflation, whether printing too much money could possibly trigger inflation. He's answering it very clearly and cleverly. You guys should look at his blog. He's a Marxist too. Michael Roberts is his name. Let me get back to Lakshmi's question. Let me be very honest, because this is a time period where you have to be brutally honest. Um, I think 2022 is a remarkable year where you have witnessed, you're actually lucky to witness the power of people. We have seen the power of politics in Sri Lanka. We have seen how brutal the state can be. We have seen that how brutal uh, the state can actually use its all the military mechanics, all the military means to crush people's power, crush people's struggles, crush people's liberation struggles in the north and south, in both north and south. But this year is very remarkable because people have shown their power. They have very clearly shown that state does not belong to a particular party, particular clan of politicians. It belongs to people, and it should be handled and managed according to people's will. So I think this year is very crucial and critical, because in a couple of aspects. One aspect is that the people clearly question that what kind of development state we were building up, especially during last 40 years. I can go back and say for last 70 years, but I think I would I would assign a specific value to last 40 years, because it signifies something very clear and very different from what we have done from since 1948 to 1970. Uh, so specifically, within last 40 years, what kind of developmentalist state we have built up. So people question that very clearly in all the demands, all the protest slogans. If you have heard them properly, people demanded to abolish this process. They want a very different. They want a different developmentalist state. They are not accepting the current developmentalist state anymore. Second thing is that this racist politics that politicians were practicing, and especially different regimes were exercising for a while, and they were the people's struggle completely rejected that this divide and rule principle is not going to work anymore. So there's a clear separation. There will be clear separation and development in this sense. The racist politics is not going to work. That's the third aspect. The second aspect. Third aspect is that the executive body of this state, which is the executive presidency, should be abolished. It cannot accept anymore as something beneficial for the common people. When you if you read the literature and see, if you read the literature, relevant literature about the executive presidency, presidency, you can clearly see that J.R. Jayawardena, as the pioneer of the executive presidency and the current constitution, he clearly says that I need this position because I want to develop this country. I need this position. I need this much of power. I need this much of legitimate violence because I want to develop this economy. He clearly says that. Go back and read his speeches during 1976, 77. He clearly says that. He clearly justifies that I need this much of power. I want this position. I want to exercise this much of power. I need absolutely, I don't want others to question myself for the benefit of, or for the purpose of having a development, having a process of development. So I think if you are imagining, if we are conceptualizing a different political process, as Lakshmi asked, these three principles should be incorporated. They are not going to be artificially incorporated because they are right now actually working with the current political trend. They're coming from people. They are not artificially implemented or introduced by intellectuals, technocrats, engineers, policymakers, lawyers. No, they're coming from people. So I think this is the right time. This is one of the most crucial and most important times where you can at least implement a proper political, let me say, a revolutionary constitution. We need that, a different constitution, a revolutionary constitution based on these three principles. I think that will guide our political process to the future.
Now introduce short-term political strategies. US-style President's Council of Economic Advisors should be mandated with offering objective economic advice to the President, supported by a National Economic Monitoring Unit within the Ministry of Finance. Political parties must introduce internal democracy within the party, and their financing must be audited. Reintroduce social market economy and have the political stability to get IMF support, and also conduct honest public communication to avoid the spread of misinformation. Now propose long-term political strategies. First one is cancel the ability to be independent in the parliament and make policies a voluntary act with no compensation. Synchronizing election cycles for local levels of government and align government budgets with local levels of government. Support the private sector and encouraging entrepreneurship among the population is needed. Facilitate and improve research and development. Reconfigure the education policy and add political literacy to the school curriculum as a compulsory subject. Now I introduce our group members. Malinda, Krishini, Hasini, Lakshika, Charaka, Sachini, Lakmini, Pasindu, Mudara and Nayan.